Hola, vamos a aprender sobre lección 3, el pretérito perfecto. So we're going to talk about the present perfect in Spanish. So to get to that, the present perfect, which in Spanish is called el pretérito perfecto, that's just the name of it in Spanish, we need to first talk about the participio pasado, the past participle. So we've learned how to make present participles already. So that in English is the ing equivalent. So you've got running. We used it in the present progressive, I am running. In that case, you have like corriendo, or you'd have things like estudiando. Now we're going to learn how to form the past participle, which will be a key component of the present perfect, or el pretérito perfecto. So past participles in English often, although not always, end in ed, like turned, walked, opened, etc. But there are many irregulars in English. For example, bought, or driven, or eaten. So how we form the past participle in Spanish is by finding the stem of the verb and then add to that stem either ado for regular AR verbs or ido for regular ER or IR verbs. So very similar to what we add for finding the present participle. That was ando and yendo. Here we have ado or ido. So a few examples. Ejemplos. Bailar, we get bailado. Comer, comido. Vivir, vivido. Aburrir, aburrido. Preocupar, preocupado. Few more details about past participles. So the past participles of ER and IR verbs whose stems end in an A, E, or O, our English A, E, or O, the Spanish A, or O, carry a written accent over the English I of the ido ending. Por ejemplo, caer. So if you were to get the stem of that, it'd be just our English CA, and with that English A, the I in ido will get an accent. Or creer, you get creído. Oír, oído, and so forth. Then there are some irregular past participles. So there's a handful of them. It's not nearly like in English, where there's a lot of them. There is just a handful. They're ones we're going to have to memorize. There's really no rhyme or reason to it, but this is a majority. It's not necessarily quite all of them, but it's a majority of the past participles that we could run into. So abrir is abierto. Decir is dicho. Describir, you have descrito. Escribir is escrito. Hacer, hecho. Morir, muerto. So morir means to die. Poner, puesto. Ver, visto. Volver, vuelto. One thing you'll notice is that past participles often operate as adjectives. So as in English, past participles can be used to describe things, in which case they will need to match gender and number with the noun that it modifies. Often you'll find in Spanish, the verb used with them is going to be a star. It's often a condition thing. Por ejemplo, the book is written. El libro está escrito. Or the students are bored, right? We looked at that as an adjective for condition. Los estudiantes están aburridos. So it's just often the case where these past participles can be used as adjectives, in which case they need to match gender number with the noun. And often they do use a star, though that's definitely not a a rule by any means. One thing you'll also need to be aware of is that we are going to have a quiz on these irregular past participles. So this quiz, I'll give you the Spanish verb. You'll need to give me the past participle that works with it. That it's irregular past participle. All right, so how does the present perfect, or Spanish called the Pretérito Perfecto, how does that work? So the present perfect is a compound tense that talks about what someone has done. So this is done by using the auxiliary verb haber plus a past participle, which we just talked about how we made those. So haber means to have, but it's the auxiliary verb version. So we actually have in Spanish two verbs for to have. We have tener, which is going to be the action verb to have, like I have a car. Haber is going to be the auxiliary or helping verb version of to have, like I have walked. So this is our conjugation chart for haber. We have as, a, amos, habes, an. I like to call this the chuckle chart. So it's just a bunch of, kind of looks like chuckles and laughter. We have he and ha, but as, a, amos, habes, an. And sure enough, we'll have a quiz on this as well. So we will have a quiz on those irregular past participles, as well as you'll have to fill out this conjugation chart for haber. Now, the past participle, when viewing the pretérito perfecto, the present perfect, the past participle in this case doesn't change to match gender number. That is only when it is used as an adjective. Also, this is worth noting, especially with reflexive verbs and also with any indirect object pronouns or direct object pronouns, they cannot be attached to a past participle. So when we had present participles, we could always attach to the end of those. Past participles, no go. So therefore, in these, if we have those pronouns, they can't get attached to the past participle of the verb. Instead, they're going to have to go before the conjugated verb haber. Now, the use of the present perfect is very similar in English as in Spanish. So you're going to talk about what someone has done or what has occurred, usually in the recent past. So don't forget about acabar de plus infinitive. So this is still used to talk about something that has just happened. The present perfect doesn't replace this. We still use acabar de plus infinitive, using present tense conjugation of acabar. Totally still works. This is just another way to talk about things that have happened in the past, just maybe not quite as just having occurred. So here would be an example of acabar de plus infinitive. Yo acabo de llegar. I have just arrived. Or Timothy acaba de desayunar. Timothy has just had breakfast. Now, what about a few examples of the present perfect? What would this look like? So here is some examples. Por ejemplo, you have brushed your teeth in the sink. So it's that have done something. So te has cepillado los dientes en el lavabo. So there you have te. That's going to be the reflexive pronoun of cepillarse. It can't get attached to cepillado, so it has to come before the conjugated verb haber, which realize here we could have a subject pronoun tú. Could be tú te has cepillado los dientes en el lavabo, but we can leave off that subject pronoun as well. So I have eaten without a fork. Here we would have he comido sin un tenedor, or yo he comido sin un tenedor. Maria and Roberto have worked 40 hours this week. Maria y Roberto han trabajado 40 horas esta semana. Has Juan attended Spanish today? So here we have a question. Realize this is going to be an inverted word order because we have in English part of our verb in front of our subject. So in Spanish, we're going to have our subject behind our verb. So, ha asistido Juan. So there we've got ha asistido, our verb, Juan, our subject behind it. Al español hoy. Just a small reminder, asistir often uses a after it. So in our vocab, asistir a. The a there is used when attending an event. And número 5, we have finally remained at home. Nos hemos quedado en casa or en la casa. That would be that. Notice again, we have a reflexive pronoun coming before the conjugated haber, not attached to our past participle. All right, a couple more here for you to practice. So I would like for you to you can pause it between the sentence and the answer. So número 1, I have seen his refrigerator. You should have he visto su refrigerador. Número 2, you have written a book, and that is you formal. You should have usted ha escrito un libro. Número 3, we have slept for 10 hours. You should have hemos dormido por 10 horas. Número 4, she has said that she is happy. You should have ella ha dicho que ella está feliz o está contenta o está alegre. Número 5, you, informal, have made a rug. Should have tú has hecho una alfombra. The to there is optional. I forgot to put the parentheses around it, but it is optional. Número 6, they have heard the dishwasher. Should have ellos han oído el lavaplatos. Notice there the oído needs that accent on the I there of that past participle. Número 7, you all, formal, have returned to the attic. You should have ustedes han regresado, han vuelto al altillo. El fin.